Hi there, I'm Peter Millard and this is 10 Minute Workshop, where 10 minutes in the workshop is never enough. In the workshop this week, well, I want to talk to you about pricing. In particular, I want you to price up a job for me. It's coming up next. So it's rare that a week goes by without somebody asking me a question about pricing, whether it's in the comments in one of the videos or privately through email or Twitter or whatever else. It seems to be one of those things that is particularly difficult. Well, it is particularly difficult, especially when you're starting out. The actual work, nailing stuff together, is relatively easy compared to pricing. Pricing's hard. If you get it right, then it's fantastic because you're making a living, the client's happy with what you're doing, and you all go away with a rosy glow and the satisfaction of a job well done. If you get the pricing wrong, well, at best, you're not going to get the job, and at worst, you do get the job, but you don't make any money on it. Now, a lot of my work is very similar, so I switched to a sort of standardized pricing method a while ago. I know how long it's going to take me to make a double wardrobe carcass, for example. I know how long it's going to take me to fit an alcove unit. I put guide prices on my website. They're usually a minimum, so that people, because it's one of those questions that everybody wants to know. It's one of those things that if you're going to commission something, you need to have a rough idea of what you're talking about. And I put guide prices on my website specifically for that, so that people can see, no, you cannot get a bespoke cabinet or bookcase or wardrobe for the same price as a billy from IKEA. That weeds out a lot of the people who perhaps don't have a full grasp on what made to measure means. But if you're relatively new to the game, if you're relatively new to the business, then pricing can be hard. Most people work around an approximate day rate for themselves, for their time. Just to be clear, when I'm talking about pricing, I'm talking about sort of every man work a day kind of pricing for bookcases and alcove units and all the other bits of custom cabinetry that you might make. I'm not talking about, I think it was Jimmy DeResta who coined the phrase, or certainly used the phrase, art perceived value. I think you probably know exactly what I mean. Cleaning up a couple of old scaffold boards and bolting them together, suddenly they're in a gallery for 5 large. That's not what I'm talking about here. Best of luck to anybody who can do that. No, absolutely no problem with them doing that. But that's not what I'm on about. It's about sort of making sure that your prices are relevant. And working at a day rate is fairly straightforward. I'm not going to go into too much detail, or any detail about that now, to be honest, simply because there's a formula that's well tried and tested for establishing a minimum daily rate for yourself. I'll put a link in the description below. If you Google the cost of doing business, that should throw up a cost of doing business calculator. That should throw something up that you get the idea of it. If anybody really wants me to talk you through it, then I'll do a short video on it, but I'm not planning to. Just let me know in the comments if that's something you would be interested in seeing. But once you've established a daily rate, that's only the very first stages. So I thought I'd take you through a job that I was asked to quote on last year, and maybe give you a chance to quote on it as well. So last year I was asked to quote for a garden shed, an outbuilding basically, in a funny size, bespoke. And it's not the sort of thing I do very often. In fact, I've only ever done two sheds, two outbuildings before. One was a sort of a lean-to thing in cedar with a pair of doors for cycle storage and that sort of thing. And the other one was a much more involved summer house with fully insulated or fully all electrics, mirrored back wall, double glazed hip roof, opening doors throughout, all very fancy schmancy. This one's a bit more prosaic, a bit more simple and straightforward. There's a bit of backstory to this. I was on my way out to do an install, and I was loading the van quite early in the morning. I had a phone call. It's unusual to get a phone call anyway. But I had a phone call, didn't recognise the number. It wasn't the client I was going to see, so I just let it go to voicemail and got on with my life. That evening, I got back home and got an email, and it was further to my earlier voicemail. Please find enclosed details and see attached plans. Urgent, not urgent, job in carpentry job in W4. That's fine. I thought, yeah, okay, fine. Got a lot to do. I'll deal with that tomorrow. I don't do sort of emergency call out type work, so I'm there's nothing that needs my attention that very day. Anyway, even earlier the next morning, so less than 24 hours, this guy rings me again. Did you get my email? Oh, geez. So I sort of make my peace with the guy. Call him by the wrong name, which doesn't help. It didn't go down very well. Anyway, the deal is he's got this I don't even know what it's for. Bicycles maybe. It's a pent shed, so higher at the back than the front. I'd do it the other way around personally. Anyway, this is the spec that he's given, and just so as you know, these are sanitised versions of the drawings that I was sent. I had handwritten notes and scribble and personal details all over them, but I put the dimensions in because they were quite amusing. Talk about overkill. Anyway, further to my earlier voicemail. Outside specs: 3.5 by 12 foot base, 42 square feet. I have a recently laid paved area for the building to sit onto. Approximately 5.5 pent at back, sloping to approximately 5 feet at front. 2 sets of double doors, approximately 5 feet wide by 4.7 feet high. Then he goes on to specify the height of each individual door, just in case I can't do maths. Doors with grey-coloured hinges, grey-coloured hasp and staple on each pair. Good quality pressure-treated tannised wood throughout, including floor and roof, and then stamp my foot, and in capital letters and double asterisks, no dip treated, no OSB. Okay, message received. Around 12 to 15 mil T&G panels, preferably without any panel break, in the middle of the wall, long wall panels. Flooring similar T&G pressure treated as per above, entirely flat with no grooves, with a couple of extra supports underneath. Roof similar T&G wood with good quality felt. It goes on and on and on. Please advise install price without painting. I will paint. Lead time, build time, payment terms, location W4. To keep costs down, this is the kicker at the end. To keep costs down, please quote for off-the-shelf materials for as much as possible, e.g. pre-bought T&G boards. I don't know anybody who actually machines their own, but yeah, maybe there are people who do that. Anyway, that was the gist of it. I couldn't get to him, and he was a bit playing hard to get to do a site visit. So I'm just giving a ballpark idea of cost. And I thought it might be fun anyway for you to have a go at doing the same thing. You've got exactly the same information as I have. And I thought we'd just go through quickly the spec of the actual building. So there's a whole bunch of things in here that are interesting to say the least. Without dissing the guy, and again, in case it's not clear, I've given my interpretation of what he wrote. I would never, publish an email that's been sent to me or drawings that have been sent to me in good faith as a private communication. But this is my in spirit interpretation of what he'd written. There's a whole bunch of things on there. He's going to paint it, but he wants tannalised material throughout. Well, it's not a great idea. Maybe if you mean stain, you can get some coloured garden stains. But paint doesn't really take very well on tannalised timber unless you leave it to weather for a long time, months, not weeks. And the drawings are pretty full on. There's dimensions for absolutely everything, everywhere. And again, all these mixed dimensions. It's not in feet and inches; it's in decimal feet. So 2.5 or 5.5 feet. Much easier if you have to use feet to use feet and inches or just inches. But mixing your measurements like that creates a certain amount of confusion anyway. So it's it's a pent shed, double fronted. Maybe it's for cycle storage or something. I don't really know. He hasn't told me that. He adamantly doesn't want dip treated or OSB. OSB is oriented strand board. It's I don't know what it's like. Don't know what the equivalent is elsewhere. Maybe it's OSB. but it's a widely used board for sheeting and roofing and that sort of thing. It doesn't want that. It wants tannalised tongue and groove on the roof. It's a bit unnecessary. I'd recommend an exterior grade ply, but this is what he's asked for. Tannalised frame, tannalised cladding on the outside. Again, you tend not to get tannalised T&G tongue and groove boards because it's not really, there's not as much of a market for it, to be honest. So what I do is, in fact, what I did was I quoted for, it's called shiplap. It's very commonly used profiled boards for sheds, where it gives good sort of runoff for rainwater. And the other thing, of course, on this is I personally would recommend that he does the pent the other way around, so it's higher at the front and slopes to the back. That way any water runoff goes down the back as it is, unless you put guttering in, and he hasn't asked me for that. Then after it's rained, you're constantly going to get a drip line of water right by the doors where you want to get in and out. But that's kind of it. That's the extent of the information that I had from him, and he wants me to come up with a ballpark idea of cost for that. Well, now what I've done, obviously not everybody is in Britain, so I've put a few links in the description of the video below to a few of the websites that I've used for the pricing on this. And again, you're going to have to convert to meters and all that sort of stuff. And I've also given you a little sort of checklist here. You've got framing, so a framework for the cladding to attach to. Then you've got the cladding. You've got double doors here. I've quoted for the cladding to go all the way around continuously, so the doors match in nicely. But then you've got to have something to keep all that lot together, so some kind of framework to go on the back of the doors. You've got roof timber. He asked for tongue and groove. Again, it doesn't really exist, but he asked for tannalised, so I'm just going to use tannalised boards for that. You've got roofing felt and roofing edging, so where the felt wraps around the roof, you need a little wooden edge all the way around that. You've got the base inside. Again, he asked for tannalised. Just in case it's bicycles or something that's going in there, I'd use the smooth side of decking boards probably for that. You've got hardware, so hinges, hasps and staples, all that sort of stuff. You've got sundry fixings. You've got to nail the cladding onto the framework and screw the framework together somehow. And then you've got to allow for contingencies as well. What if things don't go to plan? Basically, you've also got to work out how long you think it's going to take to make something of that size. Do you make it in the workshop and ship it out there? He says it's a flat that he lives in, and he's got a paved area at the back, so presumably it's ground floor, but there's no guarantee that there's side access. You might have to take everything through the house, in which case carrying a 12 by 5.5 foot panel might be a bit of a challenge. It might be a challenge to build it here, to be honest, 12 foot by 5'6". You've got all those things to ponder, all those things to think about. But basically, that's the extent of the information that I have. I'm going to give you a week to have a go at this. Put your estimates for what it should be down in the comments below. Just to let you know, my daily rate, what I charge my time out at, is £325 a day, 325. That's not how much I earn. That's what I charge my time out at. Don't think I go away earning £1,600 a week, because I don't most times. But basically, that's it. That's the extent of the information that I had to go on. You've got the websites linked below to give you prices and costs for materials. You've got to work out roughly what you think the costs are going to be. You've got to work out roughly what you think my costs are going to be, my fees, and come up with a rough price. Put your prices in the comments below, and whoever's closest, I'll think of a prize for you. I don't know what it'll be. Something small and easily shippable, so it'll go anywhere worldwide. But yes, prices in UK pounds, please. Best of luck. Hope you enjoy this little exercise. And I'll be back in a week or so to give you the actual skinny on how we did. See you then. Take care.